56. Bond stands alone.
Now Booker with Tucker on him. Throws it up for 8. Shot blocked by Antetokounmpo. What a block from Giannis.
17 seconds from game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead.
Minute remaining. And they're putting Curry in the pick and roll, trying to get him on Irving. Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown.
We're sending it in, Jerome. That's for damn sure.
Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Tap Room Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan. Stacks, joined with my guys. We got AK, Mr. Aaron Kidd, and Swervin' Irvin Washington. What's up, fellas? Happy Wednesday. What's going on? What's good?
Hey, Jordan, Swerve, glad to be here with you boys, man.
Yes, sir. Big Ten preview on deck. This is our 7th installment of the college football previews. We got the SEC and Pac-12 left, but this week we got the Big Ten, which I think is a pretty lopsided conference, if I do say. With that being said, make sure to go to our YouTube, subscribe, youtube.com/@taproomsportspodcast. Subscribe to the show, get notified when we go live, twitch.tv/taproomsports. Follow AK on the X or Twitter at AKSports90. Follow myself at Jordan Rules TSP and follow Irv at Swervin Irvin TSP. Happy to be here. Excited. We're getting close to football, man. We are right around the corner, boys. Right there.
Hey, Jordan, just as a little follow-up from the ACC preview, I kind of ended the show with my best bet, which was Boston College, but I said that was the one bet that I had given out on this preview show that I actually hadn't bet. I actually did get that down a lot of places this past week. Saw numbers anywhere between minus 115. I think I got minus 115, minus 118, and minus 120 at over 5.5 for a pretty good amount. So shop around. I saw some numbers like as high as like minus 135 on the 5.5, minus 140 on the 5.5. So shop around. But yeah, I did fire that. So excited for the Eagle season this year.
Yes, sir. I also actually bet that one. I bet over 5.5 as well. So I got that one in the account as well. So right there with you, AK. We were right there with each other on that one. Lockstep. Irv does not like it. He's not with us on that, but excited for
he seemed like he was coming around in the group chat. It seemed like he was getting sold a little bit on it.
Shoot, maybe.
I'm more sold on Boston College than I am Nebraska.
That's a good segue, actually.
I mean, we're gonna get to Nebraska. If you're new to the show, we go from the bottom to the top. Unfortunately, Big Ten is the last remaining conference. Well, SEC still has conferences too, but basically the Big Ten, SEC are the last two conferences that actually have divisions. Well, the Pac-12 does too, but the Pac-12 doesn't even really use the divisions. Anyways, Big Ten has divisions, so we're going west to east, bottom to top. We're gonna get going. We got a interesting school to start with. A lot going on in the offseason. It's even tough to find numbers. I pulled these from FanDuel. FanDuel has Northwestern Wildcats win total at 2.5, and to win the conference plus 42,000. They returned 4 starters on offense, 8 on defense, but I don't even know how accurate that is because I think guys are gonna opt into the portal. So
I think it's only 5 now, Jordan.
Only 5.
Yeah.
So David Braun is the interim head coach. They did hire Skip Holtz as a consultant to the team on a temporary job. But I mean, I think Northwestern is just you can't play it. There's just too much going on. I would just stay away. Do you agree?
That's kind of my sentiment, man. You kind of nailed it there. Pat Fitzgerald, out, all these hazing allegations and this, that, the other. We won't get into that on this show, but even before that, man, 4-20 over his last 2 years in the Big Ten after being in the Big Ten championship game in 2020. So it's tough to back that, even if you can't find a number.
But at the same time, I mean, he was Northwestern's best coach ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, and they're in such a predicament too. Like, I don't even know who would want to coach that program. Like, you can't really.
And you don't know what's to come, right?
Yeah, it's just
like it's the
all their
unknown.
players could transfer and be immediately eligible. So
yep,
it's just tough.
We're all upperclassmen.
All right, so let's move on to a team that we actually know what's going on. That's the Purdue Boilermakers. Their win total actually has jumped up to 5.5. I know a lot of sharps that I follow, that I respect, have been on Purdue. Purdue's over. They bring in a new head coach in Ryan Walters, new offensive coordinator in Graham Harrell, new defensive coordinator in Kevin Kane. Their win total is at 5.5 right now to win the conference, plus 9,500. They're returning 6 starters on offense, 5 on defense. What do you guys think about the Purdue Boilermakers?
Well, and Herb, you can take over after this, but my opinion on Purdue is everyone's been saying, how bad Purdue's going to be this year. But as you said, Jordan, we've seen a lot of sharp action move that number up to 5.5. Hudson Card, I mean, I know everybody's expecting the fall off from Aiden O'Connell, which, he was great there. And we were talking about a team that was in the Big Ten championship last year, right?
Yep.
And so Hudson Card never really got a shot in Texas. If you think back, man, he was one of the higher recruited quarterbacks we've seen in a while. When I think the COVID years when he came out. But anyways, I'm excited to see him in Graham Harrell's offense. I've always liked Graham Harrell, even dating back to when he was a quarterback at Texas Tech. So excited to see him. And I don't think this is just a layover team, like a lay down team. I know a lot of people when we were going over the ACC preview, talking about, I think it's the Syracuse game. What is that, week 3? And everybody's like, oh, Syracuse, that's a gimme. That's a gimme. No, it's not, man. Purdue's not going to lay down for anybody. So I can see why this number got bet up some.
And Purdue gets them at home too.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of unknown around Purdue, but I mean, at 3.5 or whatever, I think it was 3.5 or 4 was a win total. Like, yeah, I think that's too low to bet because, I mean, you look at their schedule, a lot of their tough games they get at home. Wisconsin at home, Illinois at home, Ohio State at home. And I'm not saying they're going to beat Ohio State at home. I'm just saying they get them at home, which is a lot better than having to go to Ohio State. They get Minnesota at home, and then they get Indiana at home. And then they go to at Northwestern. So, I mean, there's definitely 5 or 6 games here that they could win. Now, at 5.5, it's not a play for me. I think that number is kind of correct, but yeah, man, I think the market was a little too low to begin with on Purdue, but now I think it's about right.
I agree, man. You could have gotten 4.5. I would have said, I wouldn't hate that at all.
Yep. What do you think about Purdue, Irv?
We're looking at the schedule. I see 5 wins, maybe 6.
Yeah, I think
there's still some 5s out there too, Jordan. Only a few, but if you look.
Indiana.
Who has 5 still?
They're at Nebraska.
Caesars.
Damn, they're at Iowa, at Nebraska, at Michigan. We don't know who we're going to get out of Wisconsin. They're breaking in a new QB as well. Illinois, they could beat Virginia Tech. Honestly, I would lean the over because with Graham Harrell, he could put up points. He just got to find a consistent run game, and he has to do that in the Big Ten because you're not just going to spread people out and pass all day in the Big Ten. So,
and with Ryan Walters, you're going to get a good defense, and I know they're not returning a bunch of defensive starters, but he definitely can. He definitely can turn a defense around. What he did at Illinois was nothing short of spectacular, to be honest.
Yeah, I
was the best defense in the Big Ten last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely lean the over.
All right, let's move on to our next team, Nebraska Cornhuskers. The win total here is at 6.5, juice to the under actually. The win total 6.5. New head coach Matt Rule. New offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield, who comes over from South Carolina, did a wonderful job at South Carolina too. Defensive coordinator Tony White. They're returning 7 starters on offense, 8 on defense. What do you guys think about Nebraska here?
Go ahead, AK.
I was waiting for you to bat lead off on this one because I know you may have an opinion. So I'm gonna let Herb take over on this one. But I will say, as an other thought, I like Jeff Sims. As a trigger man, I think he makes plays. Something that's going to go under the radar, and I just know this because I'm a Virginia guy. Billy Kemp, getting somebody in the slot that can move the chains, get some first downs when you need that 3rd and 6. He's going to go over the middle and catch the ball and be tough, and actually pretty shifty when you get him in space too. So and I know they got Eric Gilbert from Georgia, another receiver. So they got some options there for Jeff Sims. And Herb, I'd love to hear what you got to say about Nebraska there.
The Cornhuskers will be shucking a lot of corn this year. Now I do expect them to be improved. I don't see him going 3-9 again just based off the coaching and the what the hell, man? That word is slipping my mind. The program building that Matt Rule is trying to do as far as instilling discipline and
the culture
accountability amongst the players, which was really missing during the Scott Frost era, which is, I don't know how he just fell off the rails, how he did, but he did. Their schedule ain't too crazy. They only play Michigan. They don't have to play Ohio State or Penn State. They do got some most of they tough games at home. They got Maryland at home. They got Iowa at home. Michigan at home. They get a dog walk that game.
The only tough scheduling they have is at Wisconsin, really.
They at Wisconsin in November, end of November.
Yep.
Over under 6.5. They gotta kill the non-conference to get that. They gotta go undefeated in non-conference. If they lose a game, either Colorado, NIU, or Louisiana Tech, I don't see them getting to that over. They could probably beat Northwestern. Like you said, Purdue is not going to be a toss-up for anybody. Iowa, they play great defense, but we got to see what Cade McNamara has left in him as a QB. He's definitely an upgrade over that dude last year. I can't even remember his name. He was just terrible. Petrus, whatever the hell his name was.
Yes, Spencer Petrus.
Yeah, dude was horrible. But the more I look at their schedule, I wouldn't be surprised if they went over, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they only won 4 or 5 games. So,
well, and Jordan, I'd love to hear what you got to say too, but I just want to say one thing. The Scott Frost there, they couldn't win in 1-score games.
Yep. That
was kind of the whole knock on Scott Frost in Nebraska. They were, for a while, they were a covered machine, if you guys remember.
Yep.
They'd be pretty heavily the market would just give up on them, and they'd be like 14-point underdogs or something, at home in a Big Ten game, and they lose that game by 6 or 4, right? So I watched a lot of Nebraska the last couple of years because of that reason, and they just couldn't finish games, right?
Yep.
They whether it was Scott Frost or whoever's fault it was, they just couldn't execute it in the games. So does another coach coming in there with Matt Rule? He struggled traditionally, his first years at new places, but I think this is a team that may be a year away.
Yeah, I think they're a year away, but they're definitely going to be improved this year. I have no doubt about that. Matt Rule's last 2 stops in college, if you don't remember, they had 1 win the year before he was there, and they had 2 wins the year before he was there, and he turned both those programs around in a single season, and Temple being one of them, which is a very tough program to turn around. Matt Rule, he went out and hit the portal pretty hard. He got Jacob Hood on the offensive line from Georgia, who was a highly touted prospect coming out. He also got Ty Robinson from they returned Ty Robinson. He got MG Sherman from Georgia, a middle linebacker. So I expect them to be better on offense and defense. And as AK alluded to, they got talent at the wide receiver position. I also think their running game wasn't bad last year. Grant was one of the best running backs in the Big Ten, if you don't remember. Their offensive line was super banged up last year, and they were rotating guys in and out. Now they're going to have
can't pass block, though.
They couldn't last year. They're running a whole new system this year. This is going to be a run-first team very heavily. And you know, with the option and everything, and I think that helps open things up. You know, I like Jeff Sims. I think Jeff Sims is a good quarterback. I think he was given a raw deal at Georgia Tech with lack of talent, lack of everything. I mean, that was just a mess at Georgia Tech the last 2 years. So I expect the Cornhuskers to go over 6.5, and I definitely think they're going to go to a bowl game this year for sure. And I honestly, I wouldn't even be shocked if they pull an upset of either Iowa at home, Maryland at home, maybe even Michigan. Who knows?
No, they're not beating Michigan.
Bro, they almost beat Michigan in 2021 though. If you don't remember, they were leading basically the whole game.
It's 2023.
Yeah, and they got a better coach.
Yeah, that's fine. They can have Bill Belichick as a coach for 1 year. They're not beating Michigan this year.
Do you guys remember how fishy that line was in 2021 of that game that Jordan's referencing?
Yeah.
I think I was on Nebraska in that game, and I'm not looking at anything, so I'm just shooting off of memory here. But I think they were like plus.
Dogs.
Yeah, all right. And then like they led the whole game, but they lose on a field goal at the end or something. I think Scott Frost goes for it on 4th and 1 to seal the game, and they don't get it. And then Michigan kicks a field goal.
Yep. It's exactly.
Yep,
I was at Circa watching that game, and it was crazy because everybody in there was on Nebraska.
Yep.
It was just.
I just remember the line being so fishy.
I'm pretty sure that was the same weekend where Oregon beat Ohio State at Ohio
Actually,
State.
I think you're right, Jordan. Yeah. I remember that too.
I think
so they start off on the road at Minnesota, then at Colorado, then they're at home 3 straight weeks.
Yep. And we're gonna get to Minnesota here in a second right now. So we could talk about Minnesota. Minnesota Golden Gophers, their win total is at 7.5. To win the conference plus 3,400. They're returning 7 starters on offense, 6 on defense. Head coach PJ Fleck, he's back here for his 7th year. Offensive coordinator is Greg Harbaugh, no relation to Jim Harbaugh. Defensive coordinator Joe Rossi. What do you guys, AK? What do you think about Minnesota, the Gophers?
Well, you know, after he got banged up in 2021, he came back and had a stellar year last year. We're talking about Muhammad Ibrahim. I think he's with Minnesota Vikings now.
He's in the NFL.
So replacing him along with 3 starters along the offensive line, you know, it's always a concern. But another good defense last year. You know, I don't have a whole lot of opinion about Minnesota. I think a lot of people have them kind of power rated 3rd or 4th in this division, and I think that's kind of where I have them at.
What do you think, Irv?
Minnesota is gonna be hard, man, because they're gonna play good defense. It's just I don't know what I'm gonna get from that offense. That besides Iowa, that probably was the worst offense in the Big Ten last year. I think I watched them play. I know I watched 2 of their games, but I know one of the games was later in the year, and I had to cut it off at halftime. It was some of the worst offense I've ever seen in my life. And the 2 quarterbacks were just. Is Morgan still there?
No. Tanner Morgan's gone. It's Ethan Kalakamanis.
Yeah, he was quarterbacking. Did they bring in no quarterback?
No, but he's still the starter. Yeah.
Under best bet.
He was actually good in the bowl game against Syracuse though.
He threw for 80 yards.
He was decent though. But I mean that's the thing.
He managed the game.
Like, bro, I'm not high on Minnesota. Like, I think Nebraska is better than Minnesota, to be honest. That's why, like, when you're talking about, you know, a gimme game, like they start off with Nebraska first game. The only reason why they're gonna be favored is because Nebraska is breaking in like new everything. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't sit there and play Nebraska. But dude, you lose your best offensive lineman arguably in school history in Schmitz, right? You lose 2 other starters on the offensive line. You got to replace them, and then you lose. I mean, they lost Ibrahim, their leading rusher in school history. Tanner Morgan, their leading passer in school history. I mean, they just lost a ton, and I don't know what to expect. Their defense, they bring back Kyler Baugh. He was honorable Big Ten, all Big Ten last year. They bring in Ryan Seelig from Western Michigan. I mean, dude, they transferred in like 6 guys from Western Michigan. Western Michigan wasn't even good last year. I just
and they get Michigan and Ohio State in the crossover, Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean,
best of luck to them.
Their over under is 6, right?
7.5.
7. Oh yeah, it's going under for sure because
Yeah. The only thing
And
going
so
for them is PJ
they
Fleck.
might. Are we sure they're gonna beat Eastern Michigan?
hey, that's a good question, actually. Jordan's right though. It's open at 7.5. When I started doing some research on this over the weekend, it was at 7. I'm actually seeing some plus money 6.5s popping now, boys. So it's getting unders getting hammered here.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Because
I see why.
Vegas Insider had them at 6.5 or 7.5 today when I was making the.
Yep. On DraftKings, 6.5 pop today, 6.5 and plus 120.
They 8-point favorites against Nebraska. Damn, I think you better take Nebraska plus 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the one tough thing though, Irv, in the sense of Nebraska in this game is that, it is usually teams that have new coaches and breaking off like new teams and stuff. Usually you're
They start
start a little slow, yeah. And they gotta go
Especially
to
on a
Minnesota.
wonky Thursday night game on the road.
Yep. That's the only thing that has me like kind of hesitant to fire on Minnesota in that spot. Not that on Nebraska in that spot. Not that I'm like running to the window to take Minnesota. You know what I mean?
What's the over under for that game? That shit probably going under for sure.
It's probably like around 42.5, 44.5.
That's what my gut tells me.
All right, let's move on to our next team. We got the Fighting Illini, the Fighting Brett Belemas. I always mess his name up. Coming off a wonderful year last year, which I actually have a great stat on, which I'll get to. That last year they had a phenomenal year, 8-5. Their win total this year is only 6.5 to win the conference, plus 9,500. They only returned 12 starters, 6 on offense, 6 on defense. AK, what do you think about the Fighting Illini?
Well, they lost their gunslinger, Tommy DeVito. He's actually with the New York Giants now. I knew he went undrafted, but I didn't know anybody picked him up before I started doing some research for the show.
Probably better than their starting quarterback, too.
They lost pretty dynamic back in Chase Brown. Of course, you mentioned they lost Ryan Walters, which was huge as far as the defense coordinator heading over to Purdue. Devon Witherspoon, first round pick in the draft.
Top 5 pick in the draft.
Top 5 pick you up. So, always tough sledding when you lose, your best coordinator, maybe one of the better coordinators in the conference. You got a new trigger man. When I was doing this research, they hadn't even actually named their starting quarterback yet.
I think it's going to be Luke Altmaier
from Ole Miss, yeah, but they said he didn't have a good spring. So, anyways, it's always tough when you lose your trigger man. You're one of your best weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and your defense was so good last year, but that was backed by, as Irv said, a top 5 pick and a great coordinator. So I'm definitely not in a rush to go back to Illinois right now.
Not only that, they also lost 3 of their top 4 DBs. Another one, Sidney Brown, drafted by Philadelphia in the 3rd round. And then they also lost Jartavius Martin, drafted in the 2nd round by your commies.
That's right. Yep.
So, I mean, they lost a lot of talent to the NFL. That's going to be tough to replace. They do return Jerzon Newton, the defensive end. He's going to be in the NFL next year as well. So, he was first-team All-American last year. So, getting him back is nice. They get Keith Randolph back. He was third-team All-Big Ten last year. Gabe Jackas, he was honorable mention Big Ten last year. So, they do return some talent on the defense. But, I mean, you lost 3 NFL players and your defensive coordinator. That's just going to be tough sledding, and we don't even know what we're getting from the quarterback position.
Yeah, and they got to start off against Toledo and Kansas. So,
yep,
they're gonna get tested right off the bat.
And Penn State.
Yep.
And after that, they play Penn State at home and a 9 a.m. start.
And
FAU. They could literally start the season 0-3.
Yep,
they've got to go to Kansas on the road.
Yep.
Yeah. FAU might be a little toss up because we all down on them. We don't know.
Yep.
We don't know what they're going to be. Then after that, they got to go to Purdue at home against Nebraska, then at Maryland, home against Wisconsin, at Minnesota, home against Iowa. Well, Indiana, at Iowa, and they end the season against Northwestern. Yeah, honestly, over under 7.
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah, because I think by October, Nebraska is probably going to be playing better ball. Yeah, I got them starting off probably 1-5, 1-6.
Yeah, they could get there. The back half of their schedule isn't as bad, but
Yeah.
yeah, dude, it's tough sledding.
That,
I lean the under for sure.
yeah, I lean the under. Might even bet the under because after they play FAU, they on the road against Purdue, at home against Nebraska, then got to go on the road against Maryland, then play Wisconsin at home. Yeah,
Yep.
they don't play top dogs, but they do play teams that I think are better than them for sure, and it's not going. They could probably beat Minnesota on the road because I'm not high on Minnesota. I'm higher on the Illini because their defense is going to still be pretty good.
Yep.
And I think they'll still have a better offense than Minnesota. But yeah, I would definitely lean the under. I don't like. They lost too much, in my opinion, and Illini is not a program that reloads. So I think this definitely gonna be a transition year for them.
Yeah. Here's an interesting stat too that I said I was going to throw out. The last 3 times that Illinois has had a winning record, they followed that up with a losing record right after the year after in 2000, 2002, and 2008.
Those were the old Juice. Remember Juice?
Juice Williams. So
Juice Williams. Yeah.
they have not had a back-to-back winning seasons in a very, very long time.
Ooh, I remember when Juice Williams met Ray Maluga in the Rose Bowl. That was not a pretty sight.
Yep.
Oh.
That was his downfall after that.
All right, let's move on to this is AK's best bet right here. The Iowa Hawkeyes, their total has been bet up to 8.5 now. I don't know if you like it at 8.5 AK, but to win the conference plus 1,200. They're returning 9 starters on offense, 7 on defense. We've mentioned it earlier. They're getting probably the best quarterback in program history coming in, and that's not saying much because Cade McNamara is not even that great. Kirk Ferentz is the head coach here, Mr. I like to punt from the 30-yard line instead of kick a field goal. Offensive coordinator is his son, Brian Ferentz, who runs an awful, awful offense. And then the defensive coordinator is probably one of the best in the country in Phil Parker. He's back for like the 30th year. What do you guys think about the Iowa Hawkeyes? AK, we'll start with you because we know you're high on them.
Yeah, Brian. So you kind of knocked it out of the park there. They return a very good defense, one of the best ones in the conference. They struggled to score, but I think a lot of that was Irv talked about earlier. Spencer Petras, he just couldn't figure it out at all. They got a new trigger man, Cade McNamara. Caleb Johnson's also a guy that they're going to ground and pound with him. Defense is going to be great, man. And when you start looking at their schedule, we heard what happened to Hunter Deckers today at Iowa State, so that helps. If you've been following that line before the news broke was like Iowa State minus 1.5, and that line is now like Iowa minus 5.5. So obviously with the news,
they lost their real MVP too. Iowa lost their kicker.
Yeah, he'll be. We'll move on. He was the backup kicker actually.
I thought he was the starter.
Nah, it was
second string.
Yeah, Drew Stevens the starter. Aaron Blum is the backup.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's right. So they do go to Penn State. They got to go on the road to Penn State. They got to go on the road to Wisconsin. But they get Illinois, Rutgers, Northwestern, and Minnesota at home 4 straight weeks in a row with the bye in there. But 4 straight home games that are all winnable. At Nebraska, end of the season. That's always a weird game, but I think they can take care of business there too. They also get Purdue at home. Get Utah State at home, get Western Michigan at home. So this was 7.5, and Jordan's unfortunately ruined it already. But that is my best bet for the show, and I'll give it out again at the end of the season. End of the show. But I think from the numbers I've seen 8 and even 8.5 now.
Yep, it's at 8.5 almost everywhere now.
Yeah,
this is it's definitely going to be a better year. They do lose a lot of talent though. Let's keep it real. They lost Jack Campbell, one of their best linebackers in school history. They also lose Riley Moss, who was Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten 2 years ago.
Shout out to Riley Moss. He's running with the 2s and getting some run with the 1s in Denver.
Nice.
A white cornerback. You don't see that often.
Good player. They also lost John Wagner and Lucas Van Ness. So, they did lose a lot of talent. But the one thing with the defense is we know Phil Parker is going to Like they always have a good defense.
Yeah, they got a future first round safety and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but
Xavier
he's a dog.
Wonkba, right?
Yeah, he was a
Yep.
freshman All American. He
They
gonna
all,
be nice.
they also get Jamari Harris back. He was out for the year last year. He's a really good cornerback as well. And then they returned Cooper DeJean, who was first team All Big Ten last year. So yeah, I mean they returned a lot on their offense. Obviously, they get Cade McNamara, definitely the best quarterback they've ever had. Now there's no excuses for Brian Ferentz. You know, if this offense is not good, we know what the actual reason is. And I'm not saying Petrus is a good quarterback. He was awful, but I mean, let's be real, dude. The play calling has been dog shit at Iowa
Play
for
calling
years.
is terrible.
But here's the thing: doesn't it feel like that's just a France move? Like he's been able to stay there for so long after coming off of a dog shit year, and then
Well,
he
it's his
just
son.
wins 10 games the next year.
Well, I mean, he wins 8 games every year. That's why I thought the total of 7.5 was too low. Because I mean, when's the last time Iowa won under 8 games? Like I can't even remember the last time. They win 8 games every year. They walk into 8 games because they play good defense and they have good special teams, and they punt at their 30-yard line. Bro, they got first team All American punter, dude, Torrey Taylor.
Yep.
Best punter in the league.
Yeah, honestly, I only see 2 losses on the schedule. Wisconsin could sneak up on them because they got a damn good coach, but they might be like Nebraska, a year away from actually really competing.
No way.
But they got Rutgers, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan State. Oh yeah, man, they got an easy schedule. Shit, they might lose 1 game, honestly.
No, they're going to lose at Wisconsin, and they'll probably lose at Nebraska, and they're going to lose at Penn State. Penn State's going to be
I think 7.5 was a very key number, or even 8, 8.5. I'm not going to say I love it there, and I don't think that's playable there for the over, but over 7.5 where it opened, where we just hammered it.
Yep,
a lot of us did.
No, I agree with that. All right, let's move over to those Wisconsin Badgers. Their win total is 8.5 as well to win the conference, plus 850. They're returning 10 starters in offense, 8 on defense. So Fickle was able to keep a lot of talent on offense, including Braylon Allen, who's one of the best running backs in college football. So obviously Luke Fickle's here for his first year. Offensive coordinator is Phil Longo. He comes over from North Carolina, and then the defensive coordinator is Mike Tressel. Another thing, we praise Iowa finally getting a quarterback. Well, Wisconsin finally has a quarterback too. No more Graham Mertz, dude. They're not trotting Mertz out there. They got Tanner Mordecai, who did big things at SMU, and I like that addition.
Yeah, I love that addition. He has NFL talent for sure.
Yeah, what do you guys think about Wisconsin?
They hired a damn good coach. It all depends on how fast they can come together and string some wins together and build momentum. Honestly, we saw what USC did last year when they hired the right coach. Wisconsin might have done the same thing with hiring why is his damn name slipping on my mind?
Luke Fickle.
Luke Fickle.
Damn good coach. I loved his hire. Probably was the best hire of all the whole offseason.
Yep.
And they're going to ease into things. They got Buffalo to start off. They're at Washington State, who completely just fell apart this last year. They do got a good quarterback, though, so they got to watch out for that. And then they play Georgia Southern, who likes to score a lot of points, but can't play deep. Us three can start on their defense and make an impact. So they start off 3-0. Then their first test is going to be on the road at Purdue. The over-under is 8.5. It might be tough getting there because they do got to play Ohio State.
But they dodge Michigan.
They dodge Michigan, though.
And Penn State.
Yeah, and they got to play Iowa. They could probably get there if they just stock up. If they beat the teams they're supposed to beat, the swing games is going to be Iowa and Ohio State.
No, they get Ohio State at home. And they get Iowa at home.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State is breaking in a new quarterback, but
and Wisconsin has one of the best home field advantages, too.
Yeah.
Here's my question, though, guys. When you think of Wisconsin offensively, what do you think of them as?
3 yards in the cloud of dust.
It's 100% right, man. And so Luke Fickle, they're going to bring this, we're going to try to throw it all over the yard, score 50 points a game, which Tanner Mordecai does fit that system and has played in that system his whole college career. But, man, when you change philosophy that much, man, I feel like there's a learning curve, right? at least in the first year, in the first few games. So I'm very curious to see Wisconsin as a, air raid pass attack
Well,
offense.
my counter
And
to that though, AK, is
But
that
to counter that though, Phil Longo he runs a lot of counter and he runs a lot of
and he also transferred a lot of guys on offense from Cincy with him.
yeah.
So it's a lot of
Yeah.
familiarity there.
I think they still gonna lean on the run game. They definitely gonna take more shots downfield because they added a bunch of talent and they
Yep.
kept the players that they did have last year. Honestly, picking them to win the Big Ten West is not a bad bet if you really think about it.
I mean, I don't know if there's that much value because it's really
It's probably not.
it's really just Wisconsin and Iowa. I think those are the only two teams that have a chance at
Mm-hmm.
winning. I love what Luke Fickell's doing, and I'm with Irv. Like, it's very similar to what USC did and Lincoln Riley. Like, Lincoln Riley went into USC, he had a bunch of talent, and they hit the ground running. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is actually going to surprise a lot of teams. I wouldn't even be shocked, and this might be a crazy hot take. I would not be shocked if they go into the Big Ten championship and win the Big Ten championship. It would not shock me because Luke Fickell comes into this conference and he is the best head coach in this conference. Period. And I am very confident in saying that. What he did at Cincinnati, and now he has the resources. He has better resources at Wisconsin.
Yeah, I can't argue with that because I damn sure think he a better coach than Mr. Right. Day at Ohio State. He's just a benefactor of Urban Meyer, if you really ask me. Yep. And we know Jim Harbaugh can win games, but he can't win the big one. And Luke Fickell took Cincinnati to the playoffs and hung with Alabama for 4 quarters. Yep. That's all I got to say.
3, but
yeah, and they returned a ton of talent, and then not only that, they went and added a ton of talent. They also signed a bunch of 5 stars, which they normally don't get. They normally don't land.
Look out for that future because that quarterback they signed, the one they got, I don't know if they flipped him from Oklahoma or he
Braden Locke
transferred from Oklahoma, huh?
Braden Locke.
No, that's another. I think there's another guy. I can't think of his name.
Miles Burkett.
Let me look at
those are the only 3 quarterbacks I have on the roster. They got Mordecai, Braden Locke, and Miles Burkett.
Nick Evers.
Oh, Nick Evers. Yeah, they do have Nick Evers.
He's definitely the future of that program.
I think that could be the downfall is if Mordecai gets hurt, they have 3 freshmen behind him.
Yeah, Mordecai definitely got to stay healthy. If he gets hurt, that could put a train wreck in their season.
And also, I would not mind taking a long shot on Braylon Allen to win Heisman.
He has that potential. Dude rushed for damn near 2,000 yards as a freshman. So,
as a 17-year-old freshman.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah, dude is nice.
Yeah, he's nice. But I'm high on Wisconsin. I know I'm probably higher on Wisconsin than most normal people, but I'm a big believer in Luke Fickell, man. I am, and I think they're gonna be good this year, and I think they're gonna be good going forward. Except, if Ohio State does fire Jason Day, I definitely think Luke Fickell is the next head coach of Ohio State. All right, let's move on to our next team. We got the Indiana Hoosiers. Head coach Tim Allen from Home Improvement. Not Tom Allen. Offensive coordinator Walt Bell. Defensive coordinator Adam Henry. Their win total is 3.5 to win the conference plus 5,000. If Northwestern didn't exist, I would say this is the worst team in the conference.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, there's not too much to talk about. They might win 2 games. They might win 3. I definitely don't see them going over. Because are they a better program than Rutgers right now? No. Are they a better program than Illinois? No. And they play Akron and Is that Indiana State?
Yeah, Indiana State.
Yeah, in their non-conference, they might win those games. But other than that, they're not beating Louisville. Yeah, I can see them winning 2 games maybe, and then just go 0 whatever in the Big 10.
Hey, I wonder what that spread's going to be against Akron.
I was going to say like that because I know you're high on Akron. Like if Akron wins that game, then like they're going to go over. If Indiana wins that game, like their total could go over. Like that, I think that game is like the rest on the totals of both those teams. Because Indiana State's an FCS school, so they should beat Indiana State. Like that should
be. The line versus Ohio State, I'm surprised, is only 27.5.
And then they get Michigan State at home too, and that's a winnable game as well. So I mean that's potentially 3 games there. Maybe they beat Rutgers at home. I don't know.
Yeah, Michigan State is in shambles.
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan State, man. Mel Tucker. We're gonna get there soon.
Talking to I know he's happy he signed that extension when he did.
Yep. But they only returned 3 starters on defense. Just I just don't. Maybe Tom Allen shocks the world like he did before, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, they're one of those teams since they're not going to be a recruiting actually a factor in recruiting. They're going to one of those teams that's going to live in the portal and they're going to feast on lower level talent like Group of Five,
Yep.
even D2. Maybe if they can find a diamond in the rough at a D3 school, they're going to go that road JUCO route and try to build some type of contender or winning. But they got a long road.
Agreed with that. All right, let's move over to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, the Fighting Greg Schiano's. Head coach Greg Schiano, offensive coordinator Kirk, I can't even pronounce his last name, Chiroka, defensive coordinator Joe Harasmiak. Their win total is also 3.5. To win the conference plus 20,000. They're returning 6 starters on offense, 8 on defense. My biggest issue with Rutgers is that they returned the same 2 quarterbacks from last year, 2 quarterbacks that could not move the ball if their life depended on it, which I think is a concern. However, they made a move that I absolutely love, and that was signing Pat Flaherty, the offensive line coach, formerly of the New York Giants, who I think can do wonders to help benefit that team. Because if you remember last year, like they couldn't keep a quarterback upright, like they were on their back before like the balls even snapped. So that's gonna be huge, and they actually got talent at the wideout, dude. Like they got some good talent. They just need someone to get the ball to them.
And at the running back position, they got a 3-headed monster that can run the ball pretty tough. Definitely a chance to improve on defense with the return of 7 starters, but it's definitely a wait and purchase for me on this, man. They managed just over 17 points a game last year, so and getting their coordinator back, should be a step forward, if you will. But it's a wait and see approach for me here.
It's funny, AK, because last year when we did the Big Ten and like all of college football, one of my favorite bets was Rutgers over 3.5. And remember, they started 3-0, and it took till like the last week for them to get the 4th win, dude. It hit, but it barely hit. The good thing is,
definitely sweat that one out.
Yeah, and it shouldn't have been a sweat, dude. They start 3-0. You're like, oh, we're cashing this by October, dude. No, that was not the case. It was not very fun. But they do return a lot of talent on defense, and they actually have one of the better defenses in the conference. And they did last year too. It's just they couldn't generate anything on offense, and that was the problem with this team. So if they can get anything from the quarterback position, and there's a lot of talk that Gavin Wimsatt has looked good in the spring, and hopefully that translates into the season. But if it doesn't, it could be another long year for Greg Schiano. Kind of all agree with the Rutgers.
Yep.
All right, let's move over to our next team, which I think is going to be a dog shit team. That's the Michigan State Spartans head coach Mel Tucker. Win totals at 5.5 to win the conference plus 15,000. They're returning 6 starters on offense, 7 on defense. What do you guys think about Michigan State?
They lost too much. I know they're gonna try to be as competitive as they can on defense, but I don't see this offense being good at all. They lost their starting quarterback. They lost their best offensive weapon, their best player on offense, in Keon Coleman. He hit the portal and transferred FSU. Now, Mel Tucker prides himself on the defensive side of the ball, so I think that side of the ball might be all right, but it won't be able to keep them engaged with this offense because we have no idea what we're going to get and what this offense is going to look like. And honestly, it wasn't even that great last year. So losing your 2 best players on offense is not going to do them any favors. I wouldn't be surprised if they go under. Starting off, they got true Michigan. Only win I really see that they could really have their first 6 games. Because Rutgers not going to be a walk in the park. They should be Richmond, but other than that, they could start 1-6, 1-7.
Yeah, you're talking about a team that defensively allowed 31 points last year. Almost did last in rush defense too. People are just running over top of them. Man, I'm not in a rush to back Michigan State at all. Hopefully, they won't be fighting in the tunnels this year.
Yeah. No, this is
that was crazy.
This is I don't see very good things for this team, man. To be honest, I think if Michigan State could go back, they probably wouldn't have given Mel Tucker that extension. This is just not a good team, man. And I honestly lean the under, and I'm with you, Irv. Like, they could easily lose at Central Michigan. They could lose. They're definitely going to lose to Washington. They could lose to Maryland. They're definitely going to lose at Iowa. At Rutgers is not a walk in the park. Then they get Michigan, and they do play Michigan.
Miami FC.
It's just, yeah. I don't see 6 wins at all. So I definitely like the under 5.5 here. I'm not gonna lie. Anything else before we move on? Michigan State?
I think they're in shambles, like Irv said, man. I'm not to back them at all.
AK's locked on that Diamondbacks game, I could tell.
Yeah, I am. Back to blow it here.
Bases
on,
loaded,
man.
no outs.
And get a double.
Shit.
They just hit a double, bases clearing double.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Well, guys on second and third.
Oh no.
Just Diamondbacks, man, they started off so hot and they're just faded down the stretch here a little bit.
They have.
Yeah, regression hit like a ton of bricks.
All right, let's talk about these Maryland Terrapins. Head coach Mike Locksley, who's one of my favorite head coaches in college football. Offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, defensive coordinator Brian Williams. Their win total 7.5 to win the conference, plus 10,000. They're only returning 11 starters, 5 on offense, 6 on defense, but they do get little Tua back, who was all Big Ten last year, second team. What's your guys' thoughts on Maryland? Is this the year they finally beat a top 25 team?
He got offered $2 million to leave Maryland, so that lets you know his team think really highly of him and his talent. Win total is 8 or 7.5.
The win total is 7.5.
To get to that 7.5, they gotta beat one of. They should be able to beat the rest of. They should be able to Towson, Charlotte, UVA, Michigan State, Indiana. That's 1, 2, 3. That's 5 wins. They should beat Illinois, Northwestern. That's 7. They're at Nebraska, at Rutgers. They probably split those, but yeah, if they could beat one of the big 3, I definitely see them going over, honestly. And they should have beat Michigan, and they should have beat Michigan last year for sure. So
they got to continue to improve on the defensive side of the ball, but they got plenty of options at on the offensive side of the ball. Man, they got a couple good receivers. They can figure out the offensive line, man. Only bringing one guy back there, they can figure that out and keep him upright. That a team might put up some points this year again.
Yeah, they only returned 1 offensive lineman, but
I'm pushing Jared Verse to be one of the first players taken on the defensive side of the ball next year.
Yep. And they also
his name Snack Williams something.
Who?
Robinson. I can't think of his first name. He go by a nickname now.
For what? What position does he play?
He's a edge guy, outside linebacker.
Oh,
Dominion Robinson, but his he go by a nickname. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, guys. They open with Towson, Charlotte, Virginia, Michigan State, Indiana. They could eastly start off 5-0.
Yeah, they could, and then you only need 3 more wins out of Ohio State, Illinois, Northwestern. Northwestern should be another win. Penn State, Nebraska, Michigan, Rutgers. I mean, the only thing that's the downside to their schedule is they got to face Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan.
Yep.
And
they get Penn State and Michigan at home. And if you remember, they played Michigan really tough last year.
They should have won the game.
Should have won the game. Had the game wrapped up. Michigan came back on them there at the end.
And if you recall, the opening play, the fucking dude on the kickoff return fucking fumbles the ball, and Michigan gets it at the 1-yard line, dude. So they started down.
Wait, my bad. The dude that they had, he transferred to Penn State.
Yeah. They did lose some guys, but they also transferred in a lot of guys like Quashon Fuller from Florida State, Jordan Phillips from Tennessee. They got a lot of transfers. And the same thing on the offensive line. Like, they did lose guys on the offensive line, but they transferred in a lot of guys that have starting experience. The only problem is they transferred a lot of guys with starting experience at FCS. So they're gonna have to break those
Chop
guys.
Robinson is the guy they lost to Penn State.
It feels like they have a couple games to figure it out, though. You start off with Towson at home, Charlotte at home, and UVA at home, man. I mean, you should be able to work the kinks out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely lean the over for Maryland, without a doubt. I think that last year I said they were going to be bowl eligible. I said last year they were going to finally beat a top 10 team. Or top 25 team. They almost did in Michigan, but Mike Locksley, he just got to get over that hump, dude. He's got the same problem as James Franklin, dude. Neither of those guys can beat top teams. They just got to figure it out. Ooh, gunned him down at home. That's good.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
That's good. All right, let's move over to the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Fighting James Franklins, the guy that I'm so fucking happy USC did not hire. Oh, man, that would have been terrible if they hired him. I would have been so mad. Their win total's at 9.5. This is like the media darling team this year. This is like everyone's darling to be the dark horse to make the college football playoff. All of a sudden everyone thinks James Franklin's going to be able to beat a good team. I'll believe it when I see it. Their win total is 9.5 to win the conference plus 550. They are returning 8 on offense, 8 on defense. They do lose their starting quarterback in Sean Clifford, who is one of their best quarterbacks in program history statistically. What do you guys think about Penn State here?
I think there's a lot of optimism, man. They've got some good offensive linemen. They've got a dynamic backfield. As you said, they got maybe a question mark at Sean Clifford, but the new guy, I can't remember his last name. Is it Allar? Is that how you say it?
Allar. Yeah,
Yeah.
too.
Yep, there's a lot of hype around him, but like Jordan said, there's some, they're definitely the trendy pick, if you will. I know people are betting them everywhere they can. So they got some question marks at receiver. Kent State, you guys remember that we talked about them in our MAC preview. Dante Cephas probably going to try to fill that void at wide receiver 1, but Anthony Poindexter, former Wahoo, he's got the defense coordinator position all to himself now. He shared it for a couple of years. What is it? Manny Diaz too, right?
Manny Diaz is a defensive coordinator
with Anthony Poindexter as an associate head coach. So my point of that whole thing is the defense should be good again. They lost Joey Porter Jr., of course, who's been fighting it up with what's facing camp. But I'm excited for Penn State, man. But it's definitely a wait and see approach for me, and I'm not in a rush to back them in 9.5 wins at over.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 9.5 is too far because, like I said, dude, they can't beat a top 25 team, and they're gonna have to go. They have to go to Michigan. They also get Ohio State at home. They get Iowa at home, which is beneficial. But if they drop 2 of those games, getting the 9.5 wins is gonna be tough. You know what I mean? So it's just like I can't get there on the total. And Drew Aller should be good, but we don't know. It's not like he's like this highly touted quarterback. I mean, he does have a lot of talent around him.
I think he was a 5-star, but yeah, I'm not confident. It's a wait and see approach with him. He has the talent, but they have question marks on the outside, so we got to see what they can do.
Well, I do like that they went and got Dante Cephas from Kent State. That was a good pickup.
Yeah, that was a great pickup.
And then they do have probably the best offensive line in the Big Ten, which is surprising saying that when you have Michigan there. But Olu Fashanu is probably going to be the first offensive lineman taken in the NFL draft next year. And he could have gotten drafted this year, but he decided to come back to school for some reason. So that is the beneficial part. But I do think that they it's the same thing with Texas, dude. We know Texas is going to lose a couple games they shouldn't. I just have the same feeling with James Franklin every year, dude. So I can't do it. I can't get there. All right, now we're getting to the big boys. The big boys. The Ohio State Buckeyes win total 10.5. Favored in every single game except for 1. That is at Michigan. Returning 7 starters on offense, 7 on defense. New quarterback Kyle McCord. Highly touted prospect. Again, Travion Henderson's back. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s back. Emeka Egbuka Is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yeah.
back. What do you guys think about Ohio State? They did lose a lot of offensive linemen to the NFL too. But guess what?
You know,
They just reload with other 5-stars.
that's all I was getting ready to say. They just, it's just one of those teams that just always feels like they're there, right?
Yep.
We can just always depend on them to be there. Whether they lose guys, whether they gain guys, it just feels like they always figure out a way to figure it out through the transfer portal. And I'm really diving into their schedule right now. It's Notre Dame. They go to Notre Dame. They come back and play at home against Maryland. Go at Purdue. Come back home against Penn State. So Penn State being the last game out of those four, and then they go to Wisconsin. That's an awful spot for Ohio State at Wisconsin, by the way. And Jordan, I know you're high on Wisconsin. Finish up with Michigan, man. I could see this team winning 10 games, man. I could see them falling short of the 10.5. I really could.
Yep. 100% agree. I actually like the under. I might actually get to the window with it because at Notre Dame's a tough game. Like they got to go to Notre Dame. They almost lost that game last year at home to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's team is probably better this year than last year, arguably. I know they have.
They won't
like,
be better on defense, but they should definitely be better on offense for sure.
Yeah,
but Ohio State's always going to get your A game, right?
Yep.
Teams are always going to try to play up against them. It's their Super Bowl every time, every Saturday or whenever they play. And I just think that stretch of first they got to play at home against Western Kentucky. All right, but then you go at Notre Dame, at home in Maryland, at Purdue, back home with Penn State, and then you go to Wisconsin. That Wisconsin game is a terrible spot for them coming off of that 5-game stretch.
Yep, I agree. And like I said, Wisconsin's a very tough place to play. And Luke Fickell, former Buckeye, he's going to want to win that game. You know what I mean? Like he's going to want – that's a game he's probably circled already talking about it. I mean, obviously, Ohio State is talent, dude. Like, it doesn't even matter what they lose. They return JT Tuimoloau, who is going to be in the NFL next year. Michael Hall.
JT Tuimoloau.
Whatever. Sorry, JT.
Get it right, bro.
Sorry, JT. Jack Sawyer's back. Tommy Eichenberg's back. I mean, they return a ton of talent, dude. They return a ton of talent, so they should.
And they just got the Northwestern's best linebacker.
Is he eligible to play though?
Starter. Yeah, he's immediately eligible.
Interesting. So yeah, they're gonna be good, but I don't know. I definitely think they're gonna lose two games. They're definitely gonna lose at Michigan.
Agree.
I'll see him beating.
Yeah, because breaking in that new quarterback, we don't know what we're gonna get from either Brown or Kyle McCord, which I'm pretty sure all three of us are not really high on either one. Yeah. So we got to see what we're going to get out of those two. It's going to be interesting. They got the offense. We got to see if Ryan Day really is a QB. Is he a QB whisperer, or he's just a product of having 5-star after 5-star talent at QB?
That's right.
And at offensive
this
line.
Year,
and at wide receiver.
So this year we're going to see what he's made of as far as a coach and developing talent behind NFL draft picks at first round NFL draft pick, top 10 picks at the QB position.
Agreed. All right, let's move over to the Michigan Wolverines. Their win total is also at 10.5. They got to go to Penn State. They get Ohio State at home. They play a cupcake non-conference schedule like they do every year. What do you guys think about Michigan? Oh, their win total, by the way, 10.5 to win the conference plus 180.
Yeah, man, I think there's a reason why they're odds-on favorite with Ohio State to win the Big Ten this year. Very few holes on defense. Will Johnson's probably one of the best corners in the Big Ten, and they're going to have another great offensive line. And Blake Corum, man, I know there's Donovan Edwards there too, but if you remember in that Maryland game that we're talking about, he kind of bought him back.
Oh yeah,
he kind of put the game on his shoulders.
Yards.
If you guys remember that. Yep, Maryland just could not stop him. And hey, JJ McCarthy, he's going to turn the ball over once in a while, but he's going to make plays too. So I'm a pretty big believer in Michigan. I could easily see it being Michigan and Iowa in the Big 12 championship game.
Yep. And well, no, it can't be Michigan and Iowa. Or I'm sorry, you're right, Michigan, Iowa. It's probably gonna be Michigan and Wisconsin though. Nah, Michigan. I mean, they're kind of in the same boat as Ohio State too. Like they lost some talent on defense, but like they just reload. They reload with other 5-stars, dude. So it's like, it's
And
just
the big thing with them, they're bringing back their QB, so you gotta love that. That gives them honestly the edge over Ohio State.
I agree.
Because we seen what they did to Ohio State last year with all that talent. They just killed them in the trenches.
Yep.
And as long as Michigan has that offensive line coach and John Harbaugh, they're going to be stout on that offensive line.
Yep.
They just had to add weapons, and that's what they did around McCarthy. So the sky's the limit for this team, honestly.
100% agree. I feel like this is the year where like Jim's got to get a college football playoff win. He got the monkey off his back of getting there. Now he has to get that monkey off his back of winning a game. He can't go lose to TCU.
Especially the way they did.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. But no, this is a good team. I definitely think they're the best team in this conference. 10.5 wins is a lot though, because they got to run the table, and you can honestly probably get better odds for them to go undefeated. So I mean, if you think they're gonna go over 10.5 wins, just bet them to go undefeated. It's probably the best bet, because you could probably get it like plus 550 at DraftKings. I think DraftKings is like the only place that actually has that market.
Logan Webb officially has the most innings pitched in MLB.
Yeah, he's a horse, man. He's an absolute horse, dude. He's a horse.
He is. He just finds a way to do it.
Diamondbacks got to scratch across a run here, AK.
Yep. Big time.
They got to figure it out.
Yeah, this Diamondbacks team, man, you would feel like there's some positive progression after the bad July they had last month, but they're still trying to figure it out here.
Agreed. All right, it's that time.
Let's go, y'all.
Let's get some best bets for the Big Ten. What do you guys like?
From the breakdown we talked about, I got two. Honestly, I like Michigan to basically bet them, like Jordan said, betting them to go over, you might as well bet them to go undefeated. I like their over. I think they beat Ohio State again, honestly. Too big of a question mark at the QB position. It's the most important position in college football outside of the trenches. And I got Michigan State going under.
I like it.
Yeah, Jordan, my best bet for the show, Iowa over 7.5 wins. I don't hate it at 8 either. But I would stay away at 8.5. So my best bet for the show, Iowa over 7.5 wins.
All right. My best bet, I'm gonna go under 7.5 Minnesota. I just don't think that team's gonna be as good. I like Wisconsin too. I lean the over 8.5. I just think it's pretty spot on there, just like Iowa's is now. So we'll go under 7.5 Minnesota. And I haven't got to the window on it yet. I'll let y'all know, but that is my best bet for this show. Let's go. All right, boys. Big Ten's in the books. Next week we got the Pac-12. Maybe the last year of the Pac-12. Looking forward to that. Everybody make sure to go subscribe to the YouTube youtube.com/@Taproom Sports Podcast. Go to twitch.tv/Taproom Sports. Follow us on the X @AK Sports 90, @Jordan Rules TSP, @Swervin Irvin TSP, @Taproom_sports. We'll be back on Friday to talk some Major League Baseball for the Saturday slate. Looking forward to that. So with that, we got nothing left to do this week. Anything you guys want to say before we get out of here?
NFL officially starts tomorrow. Hall of Fame game.
Oh yeah, AK's got a bet on that game. You want to give it out, AK, or not?
Nah, I'll keep that one to myself for the show.
All
right.
There we go. All right, y'all. Thank you.
Hey, I am very much looking forward to football season, boys.
Yes.
Baseball's been a grind this year.
It has, man. I'm ready for football. Well, we appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. For AK, for Swervin Irvin, I'm Jordan. Stacks on stacks on stacks. We will catch y'all later. Have a beautiful Thursday. Peace.